So I'll straight away begin with the definitions. As far as definitions are concerned, ICT's full form is Information and Communications Technology. And this time I brought the definition from Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, and it defines ICT or Information and Communications Technology as study with the use of the following. For instance, computers, the internet, video, and other related technologies. And it is also viewed as an academic subject. That's why you will see that we have engineering courses also, electronics and communications engineering, which is taught and learned at the university level. And as far as ICT is concerned, we view it as an umbrella term. That is, under the term of ICT, so many other terms come, so many other concepts come. For instance, devices like radio, television, cell phones, computer and other network hardware, satellite systems. So all these come under ICT. And when we list out these terms, these different devices, we see that there is an evolution which is happening. So from radio to television to cell phones to computers to satellite systems. Recently, I don't know how many of you have heard that people are now trying to get the internet through satellites. So satellite systems have also come, and all these technologies, all these ICT technologies or communication devices are used in today's teaching, which is mostly done online. And it becomes very important, especially with respect to the current COVID-19 situation, when face to face classrooms are not possible or are avoided. Let's move to next. What was the scenario before the ICT? We can say it was a traditional kind of a scenario in which the classroom was a medium for giving knowledge, but what kind of knowledge? Disciplinary kind of knowledge. And what the teacher's job was to instill the basics, very basics in students' head. There is some sort of a disciplinary sort of knowledge would be imparted in the classroom before the use and application of ICT in education, and the teacher's job was to put something in students' head, whatever was given in syllabus, etc. When we see this classroom where ICT is not available, we see it as a sort of one way transaction. So transaction is from teacher's point of view. That is, teacher's position is as all knowing, the omniscient, omnipotent teacher who knows everything. And students, if I take Charles Dickens' term, empty pictures. So students are viewed as empty pictures in which the all knowing teacher fills the knowledge. So that was the scenario before the introduction of ICT in education system. What it focused was, it focused on reading, writing, arithmetic. These were the three main focus areas of classroom before the ICT's introduction. Although reading, writing, arithmetic, all these things are used in these classes also, in which ICT is applied, but still we make a distinction. And the nature of knowledge in such classroom was that you are supposed to, the learner is supposed to know the given list of items. If this is the syllabus which has been given and approved by different institutions, so you cannot go beyond that. This is the given list of items in the syllabus. You need to have a mastery over it. This was the way classrooms were held before the ICT. And what were the things which you needed to know in that sort of classroom or education system? You needed to know grammar, which obviously we need to know in today's scenario also. But ICT as a tool, if we see ICT as a tool, then you see with this tool, we make certain changes in learning and acquiring knowledge or education. So that's the difference. We learn grammar today also, but the way we learn it is slightly different. If I give you just a slight example from the way I have been teaching here. So recently I just gave some sort of an activity in which I gave some extracts to my students, to my engineering students, and I told them you need to record them on your phone and upload the files on Microsoft Teams. So they would learn to speak words correctly or incorrectly. At least they will get a practice. But this will be done differently. So through the information and communications technology, I am trying to teach them how to pronounce. And in this, you might also observe that student is in full control of learning and teaching methods. I've given them the tool, I've given them the direction as their teacher, but everything depends on the students. So the teacher's role in ICT is minimized, and in classroom before the ICT, teacher's role was rather more. So we learn it today also, grammar, arithmetic, history, but the way we learn it is different. And in classroom before the ICT, you might also observe that there were right answers and there were wrong answers. In a list of given questions, teacher would be looking for the right answers only. But in the ICT, that is not the case. There is no right, no wrong. That kind of situation goes in classes in which ICT is the tool. And finally, in the classroom before the ICT, one observes that teacher is presented as the figure of authority, because this is the assumption which classes before the ICT have, that teacher knows everything. That's why the older teacher's figure, if we see, is shown with this cane in his or her hand. So the cane is the symbol of authority here. Just like kings used to have a cane in their hands. So teacher was the king before the ICT. But now teacher's role is minimized and more role is of the learner. So teacher's role was as the figure of authority. What was the result of such classrooms, such education system before the ICT? It shaped the learners to be inducted in a traditional type of a workforce, because ultimately education's objective previously was to create the workforce. So the workforce would be inducted in the traditional sphere, where the skills will be less. And in this traditional workplace, the employee who was a student a few years ago, now he or she is the employee. Some sort of a deference, or let's say respect, is expected from that person, that the person should bow down in front of the authority. So this was the result of the education system before the introduction of ICT. With the ICT, it does not mean that students stop respecting their teachers or students stop respecting when they join an organization their employers. That's not the case. The thing is that the authority figure disappears, the sense of equality creeps in. Whether you are an employer, whether you are an employee, the sense of equality creeps in because of the way ICT as tools are used for teaching in the classes. So what was the scenario before? That it equipped the learners with minimal skills. They didn't have much skills, and as a result they produced similar type of and submissive type of citizens. So that was the effect or result of classes or education system before the ICT. With ICT, it changes. Now, ICT, information and communications technologies, didn't come just overnight. It took time. In Britain, in UK, during the 1980s, what was happening? This technology was developing. So what they were doing, there is this reference to this university called Open University in UK. So this university developed a system called Cyclops, in which they created a system which was called audiographic system, in which audio and graphics were used, just like we are using in today's time, PPTs and others, but they were slightly different. They were not as evolved as our tools are. So they were using these audiographic systems in which telephone used to be used for deliverance of the content to the learners, and teacher would communicate with them in real time. So this was a system called Cyclops which they developed, which was based in the audiographic system with the medium of telephones. So content from teacher side would be communicated to the learners over telephone in this audiographic system. Then comes University of Guelph from Ontario. They developed in the 1980s itself, they developed another system called COSY or COSY. It was a text-based online learning. They would use telephone systems and they would generate text, and then they would try to collaborate and learn. Thirdly, A little later, then came the dial-up modems. They were even these dial-up modems were it evolved in the 1980s. And then what was the impact or the result of this kind of a technology? That somehow technology became cheaper and it became user friendly, and it also became slightly reliable. Although reliability, we can still question the reliability of technology, because these things keep on happening with us. And another important factor that we should keep in mind is that somehow technology was becoming ubiquitous. That is, it was coming to all different spheres, not just education, but all other spheres. So it was dominating in other domains also. And the result was this, that it was trying to change the way we learn things, the way we teach things. So entire education system, entire process of acquiring knowledge was being changed. So radical changes were coming in the society, in our behavior, in our way of thinking, in our way of interacting with each other. Because in today's time, if we see, with the use of the cell phone, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc., rather than meeting face to face, first we meet the people online. So these kind of radical changes had started coming in. They may not have come to our country, but they were happening in Europe as well as America. But still, there were challenges, and challenges are always good. What were the challenges? The questions were being asked: do we desire it? Such kind of technology which is actually interfering with our personal space. If I want to use Google Maps, so Google Map will ask my location. So do I desire such kind of interference in my life? Do I want to give where I am with my device to Google Maps, to Google, in order to get the sense of my physical surroundings, to use the map? If I use an app, let's say Ola Cab app, so it will also ask for my location. It wants to read the SMSs, etc. So if I want to use these technologies, I will have to do away with, at least to a certain extent, my privacy. So the challenges were this: do we desire it? Do I need it? And another challenge was how to organize it, because it was almost like an explosion. Like today, you go to an app store, you will see that so many apps are there. So which app do I need? Which app is good for me? So this kind of different technologies were emerging during that time, and people were also finding it difficult to organize it. Same is with the data these days. We use the term like big data. How to organize it? The data's size is humongous. It's unimaginable. And the third challenge that people were facing: what was the appropriate application of such information and communications technologies which were dominating the world, which had started to dominate the world? So these were the three challenges: do we need them, how to organize them, and what is their appropriate application. Now gradually we see a term evolving called Web 2.0. Web 2.0, in very basic, in a nutshell, means the technologies, ICT technologies, information and communications technologies, in which user becomes the focus. User generates the knowledge, user generates the content, and user consumes it also, and makes other people also consume. So all these different technologies or different platforms in Web 2.0, whether it's Wikipedia or Wiki we call it, as a user of Wiki, I can also contribute to the knowledge. So that's the difference between Web 1.0 and 2.0. In Web 2.0, user's nature is participatory. User participates in the technology. In 1.0, user was sort of a passive recipient. For instance, learning through television or learning through radio. Television and radios were mediums of learning earlier, but in this process, learning through television or radio, you would be the passive recipient. You would not be able to participate. But Web 2.0 technologies, they brought revolution in the way that the user becomes engaged with it immensely. So user generates the content. So what is the key feature or the idea behind it? Individually produced content. Content is produced by individually. User generates the content, right? and deals with a huge amount of data, because the amount of data that is created, because as many as there are users, the data size would be exponentially as compared to them. A single person, you or me, can create huge amount of data, and the nature was participatory, that everybody can participate in it, any user can participate in it. And what are the services and applications which were being used? Blogs, the premium blog which is provided by Blogger, by Google. Another one is WordPress. Wikis were there. Multimedia sharing like YouTube and Flickr. Flickr is for photos, YouTube is for videos. Audio blogging or podcasting, we call it, that is also there. Social networking is also part of Web 2.0, Facebook, Twitter, and all these technologies of Web 2.0 are used in teaching and learning with the application of ICT, or as application of ICT. Now, the new type of teacher which emerges in pre-ICT days, in education system, teacher was an authoritative, omniscient, omnipotent kind of a person. But now the teacher becomes merely a facilitator. Teacher's job is to provide something to the students as far as ICT are concerned, through the ICT. So, according to Kalensis and Co., they gave the model of teacher as designer and manager of learning. So, we design learning as teachers by using these different tools in ICT. We design learning and we manage it. That's the only role that the teacher has in today's atmosphere. We are the designers and the managers of learning. We are not the authoritative figure anymore. So, what happens in this model where teacher is designer and manager of learning? It's the students who collaborate. Students are the ones who collaborate, and they collaborate through networked computers. They create groups in themselves, and teacher can instruct them that you can create groups, and teacher can manage the groups. In Microsoft Teams also, they have something called breakout groups or breakout rooms or classrooms. So in breakout rooms or classrooms, you can create those small groups of the students. In case if you're teaching language, for instance, I teach language here, so I can create those breakout groups and I can fix the settings in which students can be automatically fixed. I don't need to choose the student and fix them in those groups. They will be divided automatically by MS Teams, so they can be fixed automatically. I just need to go in different groups one by one to check and monitor whether they are discussing properly or not, or to give them some instructions if I would like to. So these kind of groups can be created automatically in MS Teams and in many other. MS Team is actually still very far behind as compared to Zoom. So students work in groups, and there is no need for a physical classroom, no need to be present physically in the classroom. So physical presence of the teacher as well as student is not at all mandatory now. And because physical presence is not at all mandatory, that's why this type of education occurs or is imparted to different participants. Let's call them participants or learners 24/7. It's not that 9 to 5 kind of a job anymore. So it's 24/7. The designer of the course never appeared physically except in videos which were pre-recorded, and everything we were supposed to do, even grading of the students, teachers never did this. And the computer programs, they graded everything automatically. Teams also have this grading system. This is how you work through ICT. This is the use of the ICT. So you can work from home because physical requirement is not there, and you can also create your own collaborative area where you want to create, right, like the breakout rooms. And if you have problem in working from home, then you can obviously use your institution's information resource center, which in other terms means computer center. And in this, you use social networking and you create students' portfolios. This creation of students' portfolio is very, very important. Not just students' portfolio, but teachers should also create portfolios. Like we create our portfolio on LinkedIn, and we have our sort of a portfolio or profile on our educational websites also. And similarly, we can use other websites also, and assessment by the peers. This is what the role of student and teacher becomes within the context of ICT or with the application of ICT. And this network nodes that you over here see, this is the map of the internet. This is how the internet looks like. This is how we are connected. Through ICT, we come to another concept, which is blended learning. And blended learning is, I would suggest all the teachers that we should opt for blended learning, whether there is coronavirus or there is no coronavirus. So blended learning means it is a mix of face-to-face learning, which is the very traditional kind of a learning, the physically present teacher student classroom, and also online learning. So when you blend them, when you mix them, you get the blended learning. So what is the effect of this kind of learning? It is flexible and the learning experience is individualized. So each student learns in her or his own way. Each student learns differently, and similarly teachers also expand the time, in the sense that teachers are also available 24/7. They don't need to have a fixed time to be present to serve their students, to facilitate things to their students. They can stretch the time. And sometimes, even if they are not present in blended learning, even if they are not physically present, or even they are not online present, whatever material they have made available to their students, that will do the wonders. This is just an organization, Dreambox. So I'm using their models of blended learning, and this model is not just Dreambox's model. Other people also have the similar or slightly different model of blended learning. So 5 or 6 types of blended learning models are there. One is the face-to-face driver model. This model is especially applied in case of struggling students. So if I give example of my own institution, so in our institution, you would observe that large number of students come from the rural areas. So they have several sort of problems. If I talk about English, then they have problem in pronunciation. So we can use different technologies which are provided by ICT, and then with the use of these different technologies, we can pinpoint them, and also we can help them with these different tools. In the case of struggling students, we can apply it, and when they will use it, then they can self-pace their progress. It's not that they need to complete the syllabus or they need to appear for some sort of an end semester examination, etc. Not like that. Since they are the struggling students, they can extend the timing. They can go beyond the end sem exams and other things. And teachers themselves can design the exams. Not necessarily that the entire institution is going for this ritual called end sem exam. No need to go for that. So the struggling students can take more time because they have been pacing, they are moving on their own pace. This ICT will provide them that scope that they can pace their own progress. They might not appear at the end sem exam, they will create their own exam, in the sense with the direction of the teacher, rather than appearing for end sem exam when everybody appears. So this is the kind of face-to-face driver model it is, and it is mostly effective in English language learning, and use of whiteboards is also applied over here. Whiteboard, if you have Windows 10, then you can see the whiteboard. You can add photographs, you can add tables, you can add different links, you can add PPTs over here in the whiteboard. And if you are having some sort of artistic aptitude, then you can create your own art also through the whiteboard. You can enlarge it, you can fix the photos, you can fix other illustrations. So I was teaching them problem solving in engineering, and this is how you could use different tools, and with these different tools you can make teaching also interesting. This is how you can use different tools like whiteboard, and it comes with your device in Windows 10. If you have a Windows 10 device, so it comes with it. So this was the whiteboard. In face-to-face driver model, this is what you will do. Then comes the rotation model. Rotation model is in which the learning time is fixed. Okay, so schedule of learning is fixed. What happens is the student rotates. Student rotates because the time for learning is either online or face-to-face. So student will be with the teacher at one time only. So that time will be either face-to-face or the online time. So student then will rotate from online to face to face to online. So this kind of a loop will be created in which the student will have the advantage of both the things. Because many times, again, if I give you example of my own classes, the new students which I'm teaching this semester, they are finding it perhaps slightly odd because they have just come out from the long years of face to face teaching and learning. So they are trying to have a hang of it. This could happen with all the students. That's why this kind of a rotation model is required, in which students can rotate from online to face to face and from face to online, so that both ways they can learn, and whichever they find appropriate and most useful they can apply in their learning. Then comes the flex model, which is in the classroom. You are part of a classroom, but the material is provided to you online. In this, student, through the help of online material, self guides. So she or he will guide himself or herself. So this is what happens in flex model. Teacher will also be present there in the class, but almost insignificant. Only when student is facing some sort of a problem. Otherwise, teacher is almost dormant, not active. Present in the classroom physically, but almost inactive. What is the objective? The objective is that students or learners learn to practice in digital atmosphere. This is a way, flex model in the classroom is a way to make them introduce to the digital atmosphere, which is imminent, which is the ultimate reality in today's education. And this is guided by the teacher. Next is online lab model. So what is online lab model is that it is completely online, and all the courses or designated lab, etc., they are all there online, in which you will complete all the given assignments and you will learn also. And they also talk about that such online labs are useful for cutting on budgets, etc. And online lab model is also self-paced, and in this student will learn whatever will suit them. Then comes a self-blend model. So in the self-blend model, this model is used as a supplementary. That is, it is not the primary focus, but it can be used with face-to-face teaching and learning. So what happens in self-blend model is that student will opt for additional courses which are online. The education is entirely in face-to-face model, but besides this, in addition to face-to-face learning, student would opt for online courses. So for instance, in India also this system has started. For instance, NPTEL is there, SWAYAM is there. Even if we are part of face-to-face teaching and learning, yet students and even teachers also take these courses, can opt for NPTEL and SWAYAM courses, which can be credited to their face-to-face teaching credits and grades. So this is a self-blend model. In this, what happens is student can opt for those things which are most interesting to him or her. Many times what happens is that we teachers live in our own world and we forget about whether the student understands us or not, whether we need to make our lectures interesting or not. So that kind of thing also happens. And syllabuses are generally very old fashioned or outmoded also. Sometimes so many things are included in syllabuses which perhaps may not be compatible with today's generation. Today's generation is a mobile generation. All those things. And if you go to NPTEL, SWAYAM, etc., they have traditional courses as well as non-traditional courses. And Coursera and edX, those platforms are international platforms. Over there also you will see different courses. If I'm interested in photography, I can do a course in photography. So this self-blend model is also helpful for students. Then comes online driver model. In this, everything is provided online. Material is given online, but you can do a face-to-face check-in also. And teaching is online, interaction is online, communication is online, everything is online. And this is useful for those who want flexibility, because if not in our time, at least in, let's say, my father's generation's time, there was this need for daytime working as well as going to the night school for learning, for their education. In today's time, when you are young, you can learn rather than earn. This kind of a online driver model is useful, especially for those who perhaps want to do work, but they also want to learn. It is beneficial in the sense that they can create flexibility and independence in learning, because all this is self-paced. There is no time limit also. So this was the last model from Dreambox. Now we come to educational resources, because ICT perhaps is all about what kind of resources do we have. And as far as resources are concerned, because in ICT, when we apply ICT in education, then we see most of the resources we will find online, because teaching is online. So what are these open online open educational resources which are accessible to everybody free of cost? These are digitized materials. For instance, ebooks are there, audiobooks are there, some free learning management systems are there. We can call Zoom as well as Microsoft Teams, etc., and even Google Classrooms as learning management systems. Sometimes they are free, sometimes you have to pay. They are digitized, material is freely available. Something called Creative Commons. So most of the licenses are given by Creative Commons. That is, it can be used for educational purposes without any commercial use. And all this material is meant for teachers, students, and even for those who are self-learners. That is, the whole web, whole domain of internet is your oyster as teachers, as learners to utilize. And what happens is, since it is online, since it is in digitized form, it can be used and reused in teaching and research. Open educational resources under ICT, they're available in digitized form. That's why they can be recycled and they can be reused, which is a good thing, which is not a bad thing. And then what are the components in this learning content? And what are the learning contents? Obviously, courses are there, modules are there, journals are there. All these are in digitized forms, and most of them are available free of cost. And the tool softwares are there, right? Again, softwares can be used and reused, and they are there to deliver the content. LMSs are there, that is learning management systems are there, like Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, and Zoom is there. Many other learning platforms are there. There is very famous LMS called Moodle is there. Content development tools are there. For instance, making of Eportfolio, how you make a PDF, you convert file from one form to another. You make audio files, you use cloud to store your data. So all those kind of content development tools are there, and also online learning communities are there. If you are adventurous enough, you can participate in those communities also. And the implementation is based on these licenses. For instance, the Creative Commons licenses, because if they are not open source, they are not under the Creative Commons license, if they are not openly used and reused, then obviously knowledge will not spread. For the dissemination of knowledge, such kind of licenses are used so that people can have an access free of cost. And then content is also localized. Then we come to the assessment tools. When we are giving tools to our students to learn, and when we are using these ICT tools to teach, then there comes the assessment part also. One assessment, I've already told you that peer assessment can be done, that students will assess themselves rather than teacher doing it. Another one I had given you was auto grading. Auto grading can be done by Microsoft Forms, and Google Forms can also be used for the same purpose, for creating quizzes, for creating many other exciting assignments, etc. And Google Forms can also be used something called Flubro. ICT gives you this kind of assessment tools also, which are widely available, sometimes freely available, sometimes you have to pay for them, right? And these are very helpful in online teaching and learning. That's the power of ICT that we can apply in day-to-day teaching. We move further in online teaching, so we can use blogs for teaching, and one of the prime blog provider is Blogger, which is by Google. So this is free of charge, and it also functions like a website. And content, as far as is concerned, you can post anytime, 24/7, and it is a multimedia rich platform. It is searchable, and it creates automatic date stamp and creates automatic menu system. And there are different softwares or plugins which we can use to create some sort of function which can be added to the website. So blogs in a nutshell can be used for teaching. Blogs can be used, even people use YouTube, people use Flickr also, people use Twitter, all are part of ICT or Web 2.0. So blogs can also be used. I picked up one instance because you cannot discuss everything. What are the types of these blogs for teaching and learning? You can create a class blog for a class, whether it's social sciences class or engineering class. So you can create that. Students can create some sort of a reflective diary in which they are reflecting upon different topics, because reflection creates the original thinking which I was talking about in last session. So that original thinking can come when you reflect on certain topics. You can create e-portfolios, which I will tell you how to create. An e-portfolio is a repository of digital assets which are produced during a course. That is, in ePortfolio, you can keep different types of assets or documents which will help you create your profile online as a student, as a teacher also. So you can use this for your own advancement in life, for jobs and other things also. It starts with your student life itself. And blogs are also video blogs, discussion blogs. They can be part of students' assessment. Videos are there, discussions, Google Docs, Microsoft Forms, slides. So all these can be used in blogs. Teachers can also use blogs. Students can use blog for writing or homework, and websites can also be created on blogs. Now let us come to e-portfolios. Why e-portfolio is important? Because through e-portfolio, not only the individual student can track her or his progress, academic progress, and otherwise also, but educational institutions can also use e-portfolios to create data about how their students are doing. So e-portfolio is a sort of a website which students can create for themselves, and it is also become a sort of a way to present yourself professionally, because your data will be available online. And through this you can enhance your learning, because you will keep a record of your assignments in your e-portfolio. You will keep a record of how much grades you had got, and then you can compare your grade from this semester with the previous one, right? So these kind of comparisons you can do. You can keep the feedback of your teacher also, right? So that you can keep on comparing and then try to find faults or trying to find shortcomings in your academic career and then improve on them. E-portfolio can also be used for showcasing your work, and while showcasing the work you can use different media. You can compare your present work with the previous one. You can do reflective writing, which is the integral part of blogging. You can also make connection between your classes, semesters, and even personal life. So you can always make connections, and you can always see how what you learned in humanities class can be applied to your engineering or your science class. So those ideas you pick from one class and you can apply in other class. So this way you can make connection. That is, when you are recording your ideas and keeping them in the portfolio, if you learn a philosophical idea in the humanities class, then you might probably keep it over there in the e-portfolio, and then you can apply it in your other classes. And instructors or teachers can also be using the e-portfolio in order to know the students. If the portfolio is already there, then student can share the portfolio with the teacher, so the teacher can have an idea about students academic dimension, and teacher can also try to assess the student, and teacher can also provide feedback to these students. These are the major providers of e-portfolios. WordPress is there, wix.com is there, and Google Sites is there. So of these three, I'll be giving you hands on through Google Sites. If you have a Google account, then you can go to Google Drive, and once you are in the Google Drive, on the left side you will see this button new. You click that button, and then this button will open several options, and you go to the last option, which is more. And once you click this option more, it will open several other options, and in these several options you choose the Google Sites option, and this Google Sites option will take you to the Google Sites. This is how the Google Sites appears to you, and this is your personal domain. This is where you will create your e-portfolio. So the first thing is to give a title to your portfolio or e-portfolio. You click this area on the left top, and then you can give a title to your site. And after the title, what you can do is you can then click the your page title, and there you can name the page also. You can put a name to your page also. So one is the title of the portfolio, e-portfolio. Another will be title of the page, because you can have several pages. The title of the page is also the title of your e-portfolio, right? So use the same title, and after that what you need to do is you need to push the button called publish over here. So what this button will do is it will lead you to the URL of your e-portfolio, and the title of your e-portfolio is the URL also. After just ensuring that this is the URL, you are supposed to click the manage button, this button manage. You click that button manage, and this manage button is clicked for checking the correct setting for your e-portfolio, and this manage button will take you to further settings. What are the settings that you want to keep? So do you want other people to edit your e-portfolio? Most probably no. So you can choose these options, whether you want other people to edit your e-portfolio, right? You can also choose who has the access, who can see and find you. All these options are there. And once you have set the correct setting, whichever setting you are seeking, then you click the done button. Once you click the done button, then you move to the next button to create the link, because ultimately as a student you are creating the e-portfolio to be shared with your teacher. So for that you need to click the link creation button over here. This will open further options. So over here the link is created, and once the link is created, then you will copy the link. Just click the copy link, and then you can share it. And once you have shared it or you want to share it, after that you can also customize your e-portfolio. How you can customize? Different tools of customization have been given. So all these tools are part of the application of ICT. So you can customize text, you can customize images, you can put content from your Google Drive, and by customization you can also create content. So these are the different customization. If you click the text option, their text will appear. If you click image, then image will appear. So these kind of customizations you can use. From Google Drive also you can take the different items or things you want to put. And if you want to search content online, then you can use the search option over here, and you can use content online. And after that you can go to the layouts. You can give a different look to your portfolio. So these are the layouts, different sort of layouts, and you can drag and drop the content over here. And afterwards you create the home page. And the basic idea about home page is that the home page should be clean, it should be simple, and it should be easy to read. You also add a photograph of yourself, most probably the headshot, in which your head is more visible. And you can also then create other sections. The other sections are about me section, in which you can write about yourself, who you are, where you work, what you are doing, whether you are a student, etc. You can also fix the sections of your favorite subjects or different subjects you can fix. And in these sections you can put different material related to your assignments, your grades, etc. So those things you can keep. You can also create the section of goals for the semester. As a student you might have some goals for the semester. You want to achieve A pluses in all the subjects, that kind of thing. You can also create a section of your clubs and sports or groups you are part of. That section can also be created. And the events in which you are participating, details about those events, photographs, etc., you can fix in this section: clubs, groups, and sports. And then whatever you are reading or you have read, or your favorite books, etc., you can fix them also, which means you can fix their photograph. You can also fix some sort of link to buy them, or if it is freely available, link to get them freely. So you can fix those things also. And you can also create a section about accolades or your achievements, whatever achievements as a student or even as a teacher you have achieved. You can showcase that also through accolades section, and you can also create a section of different classes, one page for each of your class. You can talk about those classes in detail, the discussions which have happened, how it has impacted, etc. So all those kind of things you can add. You can also add a passion page for yourself, the activities in which you are interested beyond your academics. You can place those things also. This way your e-portfolio will be created, and this can be a way to showcase your academic growth and progress, as well as create your personal presence online in a very valid and free of cost way. Thank you. Here we end.